If you're a Trump supporter, I'd like to talk to you for a little while about dogs and cats. Dogs and cats and horses and hamsters and guinea pigs and snakes and any other animal you love. Because with one change made under this administration, a lot of them are going to die, and a lot of them are going to suffer, and you and I won't even be able to find out that it's happening. I am proud to tell you that I date the actual beginning of my life to when I got my first dog, not even 5 years ago. I grew up in an allergic household, and then I was always at work, and though I always loved dogs, it just wasn't possible. And then it happened anyway. And if you have a dog, or two, or 37, or a cat, or a dozen cats, or if you have ever loved an animal, you know. You could have been one of the people I called up in the months after I was born again, to whom I said, "Why didn't you tell me that dogs are one of the meanings of life?" Like I have to tell you this. Here's what has happened that has put the cousins of your dog or your cat or your bird at risk. You may have heard that the new administration has altered information and has even considered wiping out data at the public websites of all sorts of different federal agencies. Well, one of those agencies is the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And last Friday, the Department of Agriculture, the USDA, suddenly and without any warning, removed the inspection reports and other materials about the mistreatment of dogs and cats and other animals at dog and cat breeders, at zoos, at research laboratories, in circuses even. Included in this, the USDA took down the records of breeders and zoos and labs and other places that have violated the Animal Welfare Act and the Horse Protection Act. That puppy breeder you want to know about? Do they crate the mothers and make them breed until they die? Do they make the dogs or cats live in filth? Do they give a damn about them? The animal research lab at a university or government facility or just at a place where they hurt the animals for money? Do they do anything to keep the lives of these wonderful creatures from consisting only of misery and pain and torture? You will now have to fill out government paperwork just to find out if it's happening. You will literally now have to file a Freedom of Information Act request just to find out. And that often takes years. In 7 different states, you can only buy a dog at a pet shop if the dog breeder has a good inspection report from the Department of Agriculture. But now those reports are gone. Why? Well, no records means we don't know when the rules have been violated or by whom, or the details of any inspections, or if dogs and cats and other animals are living in pain and in fear. And if we don't know how the laws are being enforced, the people running puppy mills and medical experiment labs, well, they have less incentive to obey the laws. They did this, covered up for the humans who abuse dogs and cats. They just did this for money. You know what this is. This is shameful. If you like Donald Trump, you and I disagree about how he is treating people and which people, and we can discuss that some other time. This is about dogs and cats and horses and Trump. And the bottom line is, last September, we asked the Trump campaign if he had ever had a dog or a cat. They had said at the time they had no evidence that he ever had. One of the co-authors of one of his books told me he never remembered hearing Trump so much as mention having a pet as a kid or as an adult. Until one has loved an animal, said a man named Anatole France, a part of one's soul remains unawakened. Google this yourself. There's nothing, no evidence Trump has ever loved an animal. There's 78 million dogs in this country right now, 86 million cats. That does not include the ones in those puppy mills or experimental labs or those who are homeless. And now, in the Trump era, we not only can't try to help them, we can't even find out what has happened to them. And did I mention the other thing? The part about the new risk, not to some lab dog or puppy mill mother, the part about the new risk to your dog. During the campaign, the Trump people briefly put out a proposal to limit what it called the FDA food police, in part because the FDA, quote, even dictates the nutritional content of dog food. Well, it does do that. The FDA food police insists that dog food cannot be sold if it has poison in it. 23 times in 1 year, the FDA Food Police reportedly recalled pet food. 11 of those times, it did so to pull poisoned pet food off the shelves. But that costs money, and it hurts the pet food companies' profits. And the pet food companies' profits are now more important than whether or not your dog lives or dies. Until one has loved an animal, a part of one's soul remains unawakened. Can you look at your dog or your cat right now and still support this man? Thanks for listening. Hug your pet for him.